This video is supported by one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange platforms, Bybit.com. Sign up today and get up to $1,000 in bonuses and coupons. You can also join a $400,000 trading competition along with other contests where you can win Bitcoin prizes and so much more. Just go to bybit.jasonsherman.org to sign up. That's bybit.jasonsherman.org. In today's episode, I have Deirdre Tshien of the Growth Boss Academy with me today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you because I noticed you're a cat lady. I'm a dog guy, right? But I saw it said you're a cat lady, so I want to hear how many cats you have before we start.
I actually only have the one, and it's kind of like my dirty secret, but I'm actually secretly a dog person.
Why did it say you're a cat lady?
Oh, because I have a cat, because I don't know, I'm a little bit OCD, I think, and I don't know if I can quite handle a dog yet. So I'm working my way to there. I thought a cat is a good in between. So yeah,
dogs are super amount of work. It's like having a child, and
yes.
Cats are so independent, so I understand. I get it. Now, before we get into the Growth Boss Academy, I want to learn more about what you do, of course, but I want to know about mini Deirdre, the young Deirdre, before she got into this whole thing. When was the moment when you realized that you had some form of entrepreneurship built into your DNA? What was that moment like?
There's this moment actually that I remember when I was actually in senior high school, and I was talking to a friend. We were on this balcony just outside the library, and it was kind of around the time when we had to put in our college university preferences, and we in Australia, I don't know if they do that here, it's not only what university you want to go to, but also what particular course you want to study. And all throughout it was always everyone would be like, oh, so what are you going to do, Deirdre? What are you going to do? And I was like, oh, well, I'm planning to study medicine. Like that was, because I was on that path. And then I just remember having this chat to a friend, and he was like, and then he was like, oh, why? And I was like, oh, I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't really know. And then we started talking about like the prerequisites to get into medicine, and it was chemistry was one, and
biology,
science. Yeah, I hate science.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he's like, oh, okay, like this is interesting. That you really don't enjoy science and yet you want to do medicine. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then we started, and then I remember saying this thing, which was like, I feel like at some point I'm going to take over the world.
Right.
This was me at 16, 17, whatever years old, and big dreams. And I was like, I think I just have this feel like I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm going to take over the world.
So really the college was your catalyst, because it sounds like, and the same thing happened to me. So not many people know this about me, but I was a pre-med student as well.
Right. Okay.
So when I went to college, my freshman year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went into biology and chemistry, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So my freshman year, I quickly shifted over to computer science, and the internet was just coming out. It was the 90s. It just was invented. So I feel like I got in at the right time, and that kind of put me onto the path of technology. So it sounds like college did the same thing for you too. But you didn't know what you wanted to do exactly. You just knew that you wanted to do something more than just like a one-lane career, which is kind of, so I guess not everybody can say that, sometimes it just falls in their lap, but it sounds like it kind of happened to you. So so I know that you got it from college, but what was the first moment that you realized, now, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to go down this new path. I don't want to be a doctor. And now you stumbled upon some sort of business opportunity or some sort of way to monetize your skills. What was that like? What was the transition between entrepreneur to entrepreneur?
Yeah. So at the time I had gone into corporate, so I was working in an investment bank. And
you were an investment banker?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I went into banking, so it wasn't
talk about extreme.
Yeah, I didn't say, it's funny, I didn't study medicine, but I was like, I negotiated with my dad, and I was like, okay, this is really something I really don't want to do. So the default was, okay, I'm going to study law. So I actually studied law, but then I went into banking. Very quickly, even at that point, I realized that again, because I was like, being in corporate, I think I knew that I wanted to be in business in some way. I didn't know whether it was going to be my own business or whether it would just be, climbing the corporate ladder and doing all of that. But I very quickly realized getting into corporate that was also not for me. And I, at the time, so, really quickly, I was fortunate because I was this junior burger and I was put on this really high profile project. And it got me access to, all these senior execs all the way up to the CEO. But what that, I got exposed to almost like, they talk about the politics and the back channeling and I could see like that was actually playing out right in front of my eyes. And I got firsthand insight into that. And I was like, oh, I don't think this is for me. I can't see myself becoming this person to, get to where I would need to have a successful career or what,
Right.
But in quotes.
So it sounds like you were kind of bouncing around trying to find your path, right?
Yeah. So
for years.
Yeah, exactly. Because I had no idea. I wasn't fortunate enough to be that person. It's like, I know exactly what I want to do. I wasn't that person. At the same time, my then boyfriend, now husband, he was actually studying medicine, funnily enough, and he was also miserable. Like, so this is, if you're about to study medicine, don't.
Talk about a full circle.
Yeah. And at the time we had just moved out actually, and we had to adult. It was the first time we had to do things for ourselves. And one of those things was cooking, and which I thought that I would enjoy. But again, I'm not that kind of person. But my husband,
it sounds like the reality checks you were getting slapped.
I know, like massive, like this is my life, right? I'm like, oh, in my head, this sounds like a good idea. And then it was really not.
Oh my God. Talking about real life.
And then but he really enjoyed it. Ash really enjoyed it, and in particular, we used to go to this one place, this Italian restaurant where I loved going there just for this molten chocolate lava cake dessert. And so he would be
making me hungry.
He would be trying to perfect this dessert, like bake this dessert, and it was kind of that was the genesis, I think, where we were both kind of miserable or didn't really know what our paths were. He had found a passion, like he was getting so much enjoyment with experimenting and tinkering and stuff with, desserts and baking. I loved being the taste tester. And I think
who wouldn't be, right?
Exactly. And ultimately, I think, in a way, so that was our first business. Our first business was called The Chockpot. It was a dessert bar in Sydney. It's still operating actually. This was over 8 years ago. And really it was kind of like I was the business and almost because we kind of always built it for other people like me. Younger, predominantly females, who would want to go there with either a group of friends or with their boyfriends for a date night. So that was kind of what we created.
So hold on a second. So it sounds like this was like your aha moment when you had some sort of product, or it sounds like the desserts that were really popular. But how did you know that it was something special that people would want to buy and that you could turn it into a business? Because this is the part of my podcast where a lot of entrepreneurs don't know that they have something special and they have that aha moment. They think they do, but they're not sure. How did you know?
Oh gosh, I don't think I did. I think, we were young, and I think would I have done it all differently again? I can tell you, and I'm sure that we'll get to it, to another part of my journey where I did it differently. Because we were young, we were naive, we were like, obviously we thought that we had the best thing since sliced bread. And
well, you kind of did. It was sliced cake.
And we made a lot of mistakes. We spent months in the red, and I don't even know if months, like probably years. I'm totally blocked.
Well, that's one of my questions is if you had a time machine, right? And you were eating out, and I told you, hey, Deirdre, you can go back in time and fix one of these big mistakes you made. What would that one be? And how would you have avoided it? Because that's the real question, is how would you have avoided the mistake you made?
I think it's really funny. I paused on this question just because it's like, would I have gone back and not started business? I couldn't say that I wouldn't. We went through a lot of stress, frustration, headache, like trying to grow the thing. And I think it's because we probably didn't do it the right way the first time. But would I have done it again? Probably not. I probably would have still done it that same way because we learned so much from it. So if that question, like what would I have done? What I probably would have done was when we got into this growth stage, the scale stage, because it took us probably a couple of years to really prove it out, and it kind of blew up relatively quickly. And then I think because of that, we started getting well, I know when I reflect on it, I was like, I think I let my ego get the better of me because we were getting landlords knocking at our doors. They were like, you are on to the next thing. This is amazing. I have this like, and again, we're young, we were naive. I was like flattered by all of this attention that we were getting and all of these accolades. And we went into some really not great deals, like some really bad ones. And I think that if I was asked, that would probably be what I would have gone back and changed. It's like not to let my ego make those decisions.
Okay, so for people listening, that's something they should pay attention to. Is great things might come to you, right? And things might start to work out in your favor and your business might start scaling. Stay humble, keep your head down. Don't let all the flashiness and the glamour of being an entrepreneur and making money kind of get the best of you, and still look at all the fine prints and make sure you're getting the best deals. Don't get taken advantage of. Talk to people like Deirdre and I to get advice and feedback so you know you're making the right decision. And so, Dory, first of all, the fact that you said it took you a couple of years to get this going, there must have been some challenges along the way. And there's a lot of people out there who are trying to start a brick and mortar business, whether it's a bakery. I know people started bakeries, restaurants, and the pandemic has affected that a lot. But let's say back then, or even now, what was the biggest challenge that you faced when you realized, oh, this is working, but there's these challenges that are in the way that made it difficult? And how did you overcome them?
So the biggest challenge, and I think this is going to be for everyone, was actually like, how do you get the word out there, right? How do you get sales? How do you get traffic in the door? And I struggled with that because I had no idea. Like, I was meant to be the business side of the business, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I felt like a total fraud. And so I had to figure it out. And I think one of the things I did was it was, again, fortunate timing is everything, I think, with a lot of these things. But at the time, it was also when Instagram was kind of taking off as well. So we were fortunate enough to ride the Instagram wave. And how we did that was in today's language, leveraging influencer marketing. That wasn't really a thing back then. Back then it's really funny, actually. We were reaching out to bloggers more so. Like, bloggers was the thing, right? Like that back at that time.
Writing reviews of the food and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think it was because they were also transitioning onto Instagram. So then we kind of discovered this platform. One of my casual staff, who was still in high school at the time, was like, oh yeah, have you heard of this thing called Instagram? Like, you have to be on it. And I was like, oh, like, you don't, I was in my like early 20s, and I was like, I felt like such an old person because I was like, what is this thing called Instagram?
That always happens. No matter how old you get, you're always too old.
Exactly, right. But anyway, so we got on, and I do have to credit Instagram for, because we really rode that wave of leveraging influencers who wasn't really a thing at that time, but that's what it became. And because we had such visual product, we almost started that whole drool-worthy, camera eats first type. Right. We really rode that craze. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges, always going to be sales. And I think that we just need to be adaptable enough to know, A, what's going on, but B, is it going to be the right fit? Because we were fortunate because it was our ideal customers were actually on these platforms. And so that's not to say, I don't talk about this to say, yeah, everyone should like get on TikTok or should get on Clubhouse, because unless your audience is on there, then don't bother.
And that's the misconception, I think, that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to anything you're doing, whether it's, a B2B or a business like a brick and mortar company or an e-commerce company or anything at all. You need to have a following. Like, one of the biggest examples I can tell you right now, as of today, is these NFTs, right? The non-fungible tokens, the cryptocurrency artwork that's being sold digitally on the blockchain. And everyone thinks, oh, I can just put up my artwork or my music or my thing as an NFT. You have to pay, $50 to $200 to put it up there. And then they think, oh, now I'll sell it for thousands of dollars. But they're wrong. Because unless you have thousands of followers that are already purchasing your artwork through Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, you're not going to get a sale.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the challenge for you translated from your dessert company over to your e-commerce company, Growth Boss Academy. I want to hear a little bit more about the challenges you faced when you transitioned? Like, first of all, when you transitioned from the dessert company to the e-commerce company, what was the catalyst for that? Like, what was the moment where you're like, well, wait a minute, I have this other idea that's going to work and I'm going to try it. And how did you kind of shift over?
Yeah, so there were a few steps in between, as you can probably imagine. So, in the meantime, we'd also opened a couple of burger restaurants. And then I met my now co-founder, and we actually were starting on a fashion technology business. So that was actually the original idea. And this was kind of, just to come full circle on this, when you asked me about, is there anything that I would have done differently? We actually, all of those learnings we kind of put into this fashion tech business, because we knew, and it was a little bit different because, well, actually not really, but they're the same because both require a lot of upfront investment. On one hand, brick and mortar stores are not easy to get fitted out and rent.
It's a lot of money and a lot of work.
It is, but also in a technology business, getting something developed is also not cheap. Yeah. And so I think for us, we were like, okay, we're now older and wiser, and we were like, let's really validate this idea first before we kind of go down the path of spending any money developing it out. So we started in Sydney, but that was actually one of the reasons why we moved over to New York, because we were like, we knew that eventually, regardless, if we wanted a business to grow, Australia is not really the best market for it. You'd have to either go to Asia or North America, like places where there's a lot of people. And so a few things happened. Anyway, we were like, let's just pack up our bags. I have my husband, Kat, and my co-founder in tow, shipped over here to New York City, and then we hit the ground, like just talking, like we were trying to really validate this business idea. We kind of had an idea of who our target customers were, either university college students or like young professionals. And so we went to Columbia, went to NYU campuses, went to Wall Street, and we just like randomly spoke to people. And, there's a couple of phases. It's kind of, you want to do sort of just almost like getting a general feedback about the problem, just seeing if there is a problem there and whether the solution that you have might actually solve for that problem. And then you want to test for whether that solution, there's actually market for it. So we kind of like went through this process, and through that realized that yes, there's a problem, but the way that people are solving for it right now, they were pretty happy with, or there wasn't anything compelling in what we were doing that would have them change their habits.
There wasn't like a differentiator that was going to make it worth people's while to start using it. So you found a pain point in the market, which was great, because 99% of entrepreneurs don't do that. They just go right ahead and start building a platform, start building a service, start putting money into something without doing that. But you followed the steps properly. You went and started talking to people first to validate the concept, to make sure the pain point was there. So what was the struggle to figure out what could be a differentiated product, something that would be worthwhile in the market? Like, how did you figure that out?
So, you can probably tell that we failed that idea. We kind of stopped that. But at the time, because it was meant to be a two-sided marketplace, so we were speaking to.
So you actually didn't go forward with that?
No, we didn't.
Hold on a second. Hold on. This is a first. I need to say something about this. So you went out and tried to validate a concept. You got feedback from the market. You spoke to people to try to prove your concept, and you found out that it was not worth pursuing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You actually stopped instead of continuing. Most people would just say, forget it. This is a good idea. I'm still going to do it. That's great. So everybody listening should realize, if you validate a concept or you try to prove out the concept and you find that it's not worth pursuing, shut it down immediately and then move on to something else. Deirdre did it. You should do the same thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks. It was a tough decision, but I think it was like having been, and this is the thing, I think, and this is why I say, hopefully I was older and wiser, but having been through years of the struggle of trying to grow a business, I was like, I don't want to do that again in that way, where I am, to your point, going to blindly just, not listen to the data and not, And I'm just going to blindly plow ahead because I'm like, I know what that feels like to struggle to try to get this thing off the ground. I was like, I don't want to do that again. But what that meant was we were kind of at loose ends. We're in New York City. We didn't really know what we were going to do now. And, I feel like there's always a plan. There's always a plan, right? There's always a path. And and I actually bumped into someone who was an old friend of mine who I didn't even realize was living in New York, and she had a chocolate retail business. Again, full circle, desserts, chocolate.
You knew a lot about that, so.
And she had brick and mortar stores, retail stores, and she was looking to transition them online, which was great timing, by the way, because it was just before COVID hit. And so she was like, look, I know your background, I know what you can do. I know you know brick and mortar obviously inside out. Like, do you want to lead this? And I was like, but I don't know e-commerce. Like, I don't know that. I'm like total fraud, total imposter syndrome. But yeah, exactly. I was like, but you know what? I'm willing to learn. And she was like, yeah, it's perfect because I don't want to be like any other e-commerce. Like I want almost a different perspective, because what I want to do is I want to bottle up what we do really well offline, like in the store, and I want to bring that online. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that.
And you did have the blog and the Instagram influencers kind of background. So you kind of had some ideas how to get the word out through e-commerce in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was really key where it was like, how do you bring that offline thinking online? Because the thing with offline is that it's all anchored in human connection. And sometimes I feel like we're getting better with it online, but I feel like so much that is still so missing from online, because we immediately think, oh, online, okay, that's it. Like, we can hide behind our screens, we can hide
it's just like targeted advertising, and like, it's mindless, but there's got to be like some sort of buyer psychology behind all of it, where 100%. You can tap into the mentality of the customers, and how do they feel when they see your product, what are they thinking about, what are they clicking on, what are they doing online, so how did you get through that buyer psychology?
Yeah, so I being the nerd that I am, did a bunch of research, and also because I felt like a total fraud. So I'm like, okay, I better have some good stuff here, otherwise I'm going to get found out. No, but like, so we worked with her, and and it's kind of the genesis of what I call the live conversion method. But we created her tribe she had an Instagram page, but we were like, you know what, what we want to do, I don't know whether Instagram was the right platform for it. So we actually created her a Facebook group. And then we went, and she has this hero product. It was a hot chocolate making machine for $129, which is definitely not something that you need. And True. So we're like, okay, how do we really bring this to life? So we knew that it wasn't just about selling a product. We had to tap into, because people buy emotionally, right? That's the number one rule. Like, we think that they buy logically because we rationalize our purchases logically. So we were like, so therefore we think that that's how people buy, but they don't, right? Emotion is what drives people to take action, and then people back it up with logic. So we're like, based on that, we knew that we had to tap into something more. We actually painted the picture for people. So we put this machine in the context of people's lives. And so what that meant was, for example, we had someone who was married, but he was chocolate making machine to make ganache that would go on a brownie for his wife. Then we had someone who had kids, like a mum with kids. They would use this machine to make fudgesicles together. And then we had, like, it was a new dad, and he was like, me time, he was going to make a spiked hot chocolate with this machine. So we actually worked on what are the different contexts that people. You
created user stories, which is a very common, when you build a technology platform, one of the things that we do with clients, or I do with clients, is create user stories. What do these people do when they come to use your service? What are they going to be using your service for? And by creating these user stories or personas, you have a better way to target them in marketing. And it sounds like you were basically doing that. And now, while you were learning about the e-commerce world and figuring out how to get her product out there, you must have been also learning other things about e-commerce in general. And if you could give, maybe 3 rules that you live by to people listening who are trying to start an e-commerce business, what would those 3 rules be, and why would you choose those? Or, what's your reasoning behind it? Or even your top rule,
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. So I think the number one thing is, don't waste money on ads first. Like, please do not waste money on ads. I know that you get told by all the gurus that you just need to put money at, just have a kind of okay website, slap some money into ads and you'll be a millionaire, and you won't. You will not, because their ads are complicated. And one of the things that you need to have a really good idea of is your audience. So that's the number one thing that you should be focusing on, is how do you build your audience, or I call it your tribe. How do you build your tribe? Should I stop there? Because I feel like that I could go on about that forever.
That's totally fine. I think that's great. I think I always say the same thing. Don't get ads. Instead, focus on content, focus on getting people to, see your brand, get your awareness out there. And you could do it all for free. You don't have to pay for that. So let's talk about perks and advantages of being a business owner. Because you talked a lot about not wanting to be a doctor, not wanting to be a lawyer. You didn't like being an investment banker. You didn't like the corporate world. And then why do you like being an entrepreneur? What are the perks and advantages? Like, why is this better than being an investment banker?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there are any perks.
There has to be. You see, you must be a lot happy. You must be a lot happier than working at a bank, right?
I am 100%. I could not go back. I think it's kind of like once. Anyway, I do want to, I know I say that facetiously, but I do want to sort of stress that this is also not for everyone. This whole like running a business and like, because I was only kind of joking, but some people go into business being like, I want to go into business because I want more free time. And it's like, buddy, that does not happen. You do not get more free time it's literally you're raising another child. Or you get really stressed out about money. Business is probably also not for you, because there are so many ups and downs, and it's like, I don't know, it's like I sometimes felt like I was being just stretched, like constant, positives and then negatives. It was crazy.
Well, I mean, you have to fight twice as hard and twice as long to make a paycheck. I mean, you're not getting a paycheck from a company. You have to earn every single dollar. And if you're not working, you're not earning, so exactly. I totally get that. And it sounds like you've had more disadvantages to being an entrepreneur. And it sounds like it's been really kind of like a struggle and very stressful. So in that point, did you ever want to give up? Did you ever want to throw in the towel and say, you know what, I tried this. It's too difficult. It's too stressful. I'm not making enough money. I don't have enough free time. I just can't do it anymore. Did that ever happen to you? And if it did, how did you get past it? How did you keep going?
Yeah. Definitely multiple times. And I know it probably sounds like there are more disadvantages. I think it's just because I'm very, I like to say I'm very realistic, because I know, I just want people to go in with their eyes wide open. I would not give it up for the world. And that's why I say, even with the first business, do I regret anything? Not really. Even not really in how I started it or anything, because I learned so much from that. And I think, when we talk about the perks, that is more than anything, the biggest perk is yes, it's validation that everything that you put into it, you actually get back, twofold, tenfold, whatever that is. But also there is if growth is which for me it is, if that is one of the things that gets you up, that, lights your fire, or there is nothing more fulfilling and that will develop you personally more than having a business. And so that is probably the biggest thing that I've found. So did I want to give up? Yes, of course. What kept me going? Probably the fact that I am really stubborn, but also because, at some point I actually had responsibility for people, responsibility for their lives, their families, for them to pay rent. And so I think that
you had to feed your cat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, your cat's got to eat, right?
No, but I had a team. I had a team of people who were relying on
right.
the business to.
It's a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure, and it's also kind of like a call to action. Like, you have to do this in order to make sure that they're also succeeding. Because if not, then they have to go find miserable jobs and they wouldn't be happy, right?
Exactly.
But we're going to leave on a positive note. I want you to give the entrepreneurs listening some words of wisdom that you learned over the years, some words of encouragement and inspiration on what they could do to be successful entrepreneurs, whether e-commerce or otherwise.
Yeah, sure. I'm just laughing because like generally I'm really quite upbeat. I must be on an off day today. But I do remember, okay, so, I say all of the things to be like, I do want you to go in with your eyes wide open about running a business. But at the same time, I also know that that's not going to, like, what does that even mean? Because until you experience it, you don't really know what it means. So I was talking to someone ages ago because I didn't know if, even kids was something that I wanted. And she's a mum, and she was like, and this for some reason has always lasted with me. She said, if there is any inkling of doubt either way, either for having kids or not having kids, just have them anyway, otherwise you'll regret it. And I feel like the same thing applies for business. If you have any inklings of doubt either way, like whether it's for you or not, like, or you want to try it and, and see, do it and try it, and because you will regret it if you don't. And definitely put all you can into it. Don't go half, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because that's definitely how a business cannot succeed. But give it a go anyway.
That's great. I love that. And I also give that analogy on the very first page of my book about how running a business or starting a business is like having a child, because you have to feed it, you have to nurture it, you have to take care of it, you have to watch it grow, so it's very similar, and you have to put as much time into it as a child. So that's a great analogy. So what can you tell us about where people can find you online, or how they can, learn more about what you do at the Growth Boss Academy?
Yeah, so I do predominantly help e-commerce business owners. So if you are an e-com and you want to learn how to find your audience and convert them, then I actually hold a free 3-day challenge where I go through the whole strategy. So you can come and sign up for that. It's at www.thegrowthboss.com/challenge.
Sweet. Everyone get challenged and get out there and do this. That sounds awesome. Well, Deirdre, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to talk to you about this. I loved hearing about the chocolate. I cannot wait to maybe one day try some.
Of course.
I'm in Philly. You're in New York, It's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. And we will see everyone in next week's episode.